Hey guys, welcome to the Sunfall how-to videos. Today, we're going to be looking at how to make a gun look like it's been used way too much in the wasteland. Mind you, there are no internal modifications in this video, this is purely cosmetic. The tools you're going to be needing for this project is water, air filter mask, artificial grass, assorted cheap brushes, assorted paints and inks, assorted pigments, box cutter knife, containers, detail brush, dry brush, fine and very fine sand, rope string, palette, spray primer, spray paint, spray varnish, protective gloves, transparent PVA glue, shades and washes, sponge. So let's get started.
These are the sanded down pieces ready for priming and paint. Sanding the pieces down helps the primer to stick to the surface. I recommend using a grit 220 and finishing off with a grit 400. You don't need to disassemble the piece, but if you do refrain from it, make sure to clog any holes and scrape the edges of any movable parts, as the paint tends to make the parts stick together. Start by priming the entire surface that you're going to paint with short bursts, leaving behind thin layers. Here I'm first using a white primer for the areas that I want to leave with a light undercoat. I'm using a gray primer for a darker color finish. Remember to let the primer dry completely before adding paints. I'm applying the red paint to the gray primed areas, and as you'll notice, I'm not painting the white primed area. This helps to add more vibrancy to the colors we're going to add later. Again, use short bursts so that you get multiple thin layers. The cylinder has been coated in a silver paint with a gray primer underneath. First applying a recessed shade along the ridges helps to bring out the details. After you've done this, you can switch to a larger brush and give all the red areas a good helping of shading. I'm using Nuln Oil for this, but choice of shades and washes is very individual. Remember to let the shading dry completely before moving on to the next step. Here I'm using Vallejo pigment powder. Mix water and a small amount of powder until you get a thick liquid. In this instance, less is more. Rather apply fewer details at a time and slowly build up. Here I'm using a small piece of sponge, which I've lightly brushed over with the steel brush to give it a random tear. I'm using Vallejo gunmetal paint for this part. Adding a little bit of this paint to the brushed area of the sponge, and then lightly dabbing along the edges, gives the appearance of a chipped and worn look. This can be used on all surfaces, but again, it's better to do less at a time and add layers over time. With a completely dry sponge, you get a very crisp effect. With a slightly damp sponge, you can achieve more of a blended effect, but fair warning, the paint can start to run when using a damp sponge, so make sure to test it out on a similar surface as the one you're painting. When you're done with this step, make sure to add another layer of shade over the areas you just finished. Adding rope string around the grip will counteract the gun slipping in your hand. It will also give you a more lifelike look and feel of a makeshift grip. After tying the string around the grip, use fine sandpaper to imitate the look and feel of something that has been used a lot. Make sure to do a light sanding and take your time to avoid sanding through the layers of strings. For the next step, you might want to enlist the help of someone experienced if you're a youngster or unsure of the process. Lightly run a flame around the grip to remove all the small strands sticking out. When this is done, you can repeat sanding and burning strands until you reach a point where you are satisfied with the look. From here, you'll maybe want to add some shading and perhaps some other effects. I'm using Vallejo Strong Tone, Citadel Nuln Oil, artificial grass and PVA glue to create an appearance of dirt and mold collecting on the grip. This is a reason for leaving the white undercoat unpainted, so that any pooling, shades or other liquids is left with more vibrant colors as mentioned earlier in the video. For this part, I'm using a dry brush technique. If you're unfamiliar with the technique, it can be seen here. Lightly add a bit of metallic paint to the areas after the shade is completely dry. This will help colors and effect blend together. When you're done with all the layers of paints and shading, you can add a bit of edge highlighting onto some of the areas you want to have standing out. To do this, all you need is a thin brush and some paint. Make sure not to have too much paint on your brush, and then start very lightly running it along the surface you want highlighted. Adding further details such as rust and sand that has gotten stuck in recesses, around screws and so on, just repeat the process early in the video of adding rusted cylinder. Add a bit of PVA glue to the pigment and water mixture. The glue will help keep the sand in the recesses. Finish these details off with a dab of recess shading if you're going for that grimy look. When you're happy with the final look of your weapon, make sure to add a coat of matte varnish. This will help secure the details in place and also prevent paints from rubbing off.
Feel free to leave a comment, because we'd love to hear from you. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to press the subscribe button. But for now, that's it. Hope to see you in the wasteland.